another installation of Stories of Sinners and Saints with Carma Baggett, LPC member, and this is a perfect example of why we are doing this series, because I've seen Carma in this church all of my life, and I have to admit that I don't know your story. I always know you as just a calming presence in this church, and I am embarrassed to say that I started the series off interviewing people that taught me in middle school, or someone that I had a deep relationship with, and I don't have that with you, but that's going to change today. So we're here with Carma Baggett, and we're just going to go ahead and get started with the first question. Tell us a brief history of your life and what led you to LPC.
Thanks, Katie. I was thinking about you this morning and thinking the same thing, that I wasn't here when you grew up, and that I was hoping to get to know you better too, because you sit in front of me at church, and I'm like, I really want to know Katie better, so yay. I'm glad. Yes. Yeah, well, okay. I was born in Pinehurst, North Carolina. I'm an only child. My parents were older when I was born, and what an advantage for me. I had parents with good sense, and we moved here when I was 2 years old, and that was in 1949. So I have so many memories of life here in this church, and we sat right over there on the side, and my mom and daddy, we all three came together, and I remember vaguely being baptized, and Reverend Guyton was the minister here then. And it was just a weekly occurrence to come to church. And my mom and dad came with me. And in those first few years, my dad began to have some awareness that he was having difficulty walking. And so I guess by the time I was 4 or 5 years old, he had lost his ability to walk and was in a wheelchair. So he, at that point, he didn't attend church very often, because it was not accessible like it is today.
Right.
So, yeah, those are some of my very, very earliest memories. And my early life until I left Lillington after high school revolves around this church. I remember so clearly my Sunday school teachers, and I particularly remember my years in youth group, probably 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade. And the three couples who were our youth leaders were, and you know some of them, they're all here, well, except for Eldon Collins, who passed. But Ann and Eldon, Marie and Kay, and Faye and Ed.
Wow.
And they really were such examples to me. Every one of them. I just loved them dearly. And we had a big class. My class of 1965 was it was just a large baby boomer class of kids, and a lot of them came here. And our youth group was really popular in town, and it attracted young people from other churches. So we had an abundance. And we had fun. We did car washes. We'd go on trips together. We went to the beach. We just had a good time, and we participated with other churches with youth groups. So those are just some of those kinds of memories. And Yeah, I also remember that the men's Bible class met in the basement. And I played piano, and they asked if they could hire me to
Wow.
play for them every Sunday during Sunday school, well, for a short period of time, so I wouldn't miss my whole class. And I remember sometime recently, I thought, well, I remember they gave me money. I think they paid me $5 a month to play for them, which I absolutely loved. And then when I was in high school, Ruth Brown still played organ here, and she would like to go to Montreat every summer to visit her family, her son and his family. And so she began training me to play for her. And at that time, the organ was right behind me down in a pit that looked toward the back of that wall. And so I would come here every afternoon that I didn't have other activities and practice. And I remember the doors of the church were never locked. I could walk in and out of here anytime I wanted to. And I sat back there and I would practice for hours and never even thought about having any concerns of not being safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and when I remember that, I remember it so fondly because I can still see the people who, and most of them have passed, were living at that time, who sang in the choir. Yeah.
I remember when the church was not accessible up front, and I remember that, you know, all those changes that we went through construction to make it wheelchair accessible, and now you're talking about having a pit down here with the organ, so it just dawned on me that you have seen a lot of change in this building, and we just changed again, so it must be a really interesting perspective that you have. Every time we go through another change, you're just like, you know, it's not unsettling for you. You're just like, I remember way back when we had a pit for an organ, and now, you know, we've got so much more.
It feels like home. I just walked in, I just walked toward the back on the beautiful new floors, and it's so bright back there, and it's still familiar. Everything about it feels familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling that everybody, all the members in the church, have that same sense that this is home to them.
Yeah.
Too.
No matter how much it changes, it's always the same place.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
So, Carma Lou, tell us a little bit about life for you when you were in your 30s and 40s, which is, you know, mine and Barrett's age range. And if we were doing this, you know, series during normal times, we would have this during Sunday school, and it would be other people our age, and our kids would come around and hear your story. So we want to hear what life was like in the time of 30s and 40s for you, and what were you doing as far as work and all of those things. So just take us back in time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 30s. Early 30s. My husband at that time and two of my sons had just arrived in Morehead City. We had moved there from Greenville, North Carolina, and we were going to be there for close to 7 years. And so we were adjusting to a new place, a great opportunity to go to the beach as often as we wanted to. And within a year, we had another son. And so my children were ages 12, 6, and newborn. And so having children so spaced out with such diverse ages, we decided that it would be a good idea for me to stay home for a period of time. And we got involved in the Moorhead Presbyterian Church. We loved that church community too. And my husband was working full time, and not only was I tending the household, I participated in a volunteer project service there. It was their Meals on Wheels program, and the minister at our church, Art Ross, asked if I would be willing to coordinate the drivers. And so I thought, well, maybe I can do that. So I did that for 5 years. And so needless to say, when a driver would call at the last minute and couldn't drive, and I couldn't find anybody else, I would gather everybody in the car and we'd go hauling meals around. And every one of my sons laugh about that and talk about it today, that how they loved doing that and just going to the different kinds of homes we went to, and those were good memories. And so just a busy house in the early part of my 30s. That was just it. It was a busy household, taking children from here to yon, and that was how it was. And mid-30s, our family moved back to Greenville, where we had lived, and my oldest son was a senior in high school, my middle son was in 6th grade, and the youngest son was going to start kindergarten. So there again, diverse ages, lots of activities going on. And at that point, the work that I had done, besides the volunteer work and the keeping the household, was I had started teaching piano in the house. So those are some of my memories of the 30s. Yeah.
Did you get paid more than $5 per month to teach piano?
Just a tad.
I want to make sure Barrett has time to ask any questions. So anytime.
No, you're good. I didn't realize that. I knew you played piano. I didn't know you played so well. So yeah. And then that's interesting. You talk about your kids joining with you on the Meals on Wheels and how that's shaped their life. What do you think in extending that? Because I think sometimes this, whether it be playing the piano for the men's class or outreach or Sunday school, it draws our importance of the church family. How has the church family, you talked about some of your youth leaders as well too, what do you think about the importance of church family and shaping who you were and your kids, and why was that so important for you guys during those times?
Well, it started here. Mm-hmm. with me as a child. I can just remember sitting on the pew after my daddy didn't come. We moved over into the center, and I can remember sitting on the pew with a lot of the older women, Miss Shaw and the Atkins women, and Dorothy Sechrist, Dorothy Pope's mother. I just remember the older women and how I would watch them and listen to them, and I don't know, they were my family. Being an only child, that I really was, I guess, tuned into older people more. And so I had a sense of consistency. I mean, just seeing those faces every week. And so when Bill and I left here, because we married in high school, and my oldest son was born when I was a senior in high school, and we left here to go to East Carolina University as students, and we went straight to the Presbyterian Church, and not the first year, because the first year we drove back here every weekend to load our freezer up with food. So that was the way it was.
Thinking about being that age and having a little baby and being a student, how in the world did you even make that work?
I don't know. By the grace of God, really, truly, by the grace of God. I don't say that lightly. And so we came here, and Chris would go to the nursery, and Rosie and Daisy were the nursery people.
Oh, goodness.
You know, I mean, I recently found a Christmas card that they sent. He was baptized here in this church too. So I found a Christmas card that Rosie and Daisy sent Chris before he was 1 year old. I mean, I still have it. I mean, those are special memories to me, you know. So this church family has never left my spirit, you know, just the spirit of the love that was shown me. Yeah, and we loved our church families in Moorhead and Greenville. They were different, and they were just blessings to us, you know. My oldest son absolutely loved his youth group in Moorhead, and I mean, it was like a repeat in a way. You know, it was like reliving that time. They were wonderful times that you just cherish.
Yeah.
With getting to know people through their joys and their sorrows, and you know, seeing them in their daily life. I mean, not just on Sunday morning, but you would see them during the week. They weren't just Sunday friends.
Right.
You know, they were friends.
How do you build that? How do you move beyond Sunday friends to friends? How do you build that connection?
That's a really important question, Barry. I think right now, if we've ever needed that, we need that now. And I think I have to be willing to take the risk to initiate phone calls and conversations with people, or to be willing to be vulnerable enough to be seen, you know, in a way that may not look like my Sunday best. So in some real way, yeah. I don't know. I think taking some risks, stepping out and saying hello, and just see what happens. I mean, just see what happens with a conversation. Or we're way more alike than we are different, I think.
A lot of times on Sunday mornings, you can just have a lot of small talk and not really scratch the surface, and you feel like you do that sometimes Sunday over and over again. And you nailed it when you said it. You have to be vulnerable, and that's kind of scary. But you got to not put your Sunday best out there. That's some of the best advice we've heard.
Yeah.
We get dressed up in our Sunday best in more ways than one, right?
We do, yes.
Metaphorically, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty formal here, and you feel like you have to have it all together sometimes. And
The looking good syndrome.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Wow. You talked about some joys and sorrows of your fellow church members in other areas. So maybe share some of your joys with us over your life. What have been some of your biggest joys, and what are you proud of?
Yeah. Yeah, I sat with that question. I thought, what am I proud of? And something that really struck me and does every time I'm I'll just focus on my family right now, my children and my grandchildren. something, my heart just skips a beat when I'm with them and I have the opportunity to see how they engage with other people. And when I witness their respect, how they show respect and kindness toward other people, that, yeah, I just feel touched, and I think they can make it. They can make it if they can have show kindness, respect, and compassion toward others. That they're on the maybe they're headed in a good direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what are some of the sorrows of your life, and what are some of the times where you needed your church family and you needed your faith? Take us down some of the hard times in your life.
Well, I think when my daddy passed when I was 18, yeah, that was a hard time, and I was young. I mean, I was young. I had a child already, and I had obligations. So, what I know that I did was I just kept my I kept my focus on my obligations so I could make it through. And this church family was always present, always. And yeah, and then another sorrow was when my husband and I, when our marriage ended after 25 years. I needed a lot of church. I lived in Greenville at the time, and that family had been a close-knit church family too, to me. And yeah, and I think part of that, he and I had grown up together. His mother had been my kindergarten teacher, and and still we remain friends to today because we have children and we still connect with each other. And I have a lot of gratitude about being able to move forward in that way. And I think it's partly because of the love and the teachings that I got here about forgiveness of ourselves and other people, and that we all fall short.
That sounds like a joy and a sorrow all together.
It is. It is. It's especially a blessing right now at this time of year. I don't know why. It's just some of those old memories come back, and of course my mama, and when she passed, yeah, because I was fortunate enough to be able to live with her for the last 8 years of her life, and I really got to know her as a woman, two women, two equals among equals kind of thing. And of course she was always my mama, and I respected her so much. I can see her now with her red suit and her hat walk into Sunday school every Sunday morning. So, yeah, just, I had a lot of support. I had a lot of love. I had, one thing that comes to mind is one morning Rosie shows up with those hot yeast rolls. It was just that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or, just anybody coming to knock on the back door, because I asked that you not knock on the front. So, people were just stopping by just to say hello, and yeah. So just support, always a lot of love and support from this church family.
comes in different forms, but in this church, it always comes in the form of food.
It
One way or
does,
the other.
always.
That is true.
And
That is true.
plenty of it.
I know. We've never been
Plenty
hungry
of it.
here.
Yes.
My kids keep reminding me of that.
Yes.
When I try, you have this unique ability, and as we talk about some feelings, you have this unique ability, I feel like, of looking at the world and sort of grasping a good sense of it. I love how you sort of step back and look. And I'm curious on what surprised you about this year.
Well, I've thought about that one too, Barry, and I think I was surprised that I was surprised about the virus. You know, I thought, well, do I think we here in this country are exempt? I don't know. Yeah, and then aside from that, I have been blown away, and I don't know why, because I know that the Creator gives us all grades of gifts, but I have been blown away at the creativity of people to find ways to connect with each other and across the country. And well, an example is how all these musicians from all over come together and play some beautiful Brahms piece, you know, or how, you know, how you and Katie and the others who are trying to do things to keep us connected with each other. Just, I don't know, I've just been amazed and very grateful for the opportunities. Yeah, so, and how people have just been so generous with each other. I see a lot of that. And I've seen some of the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
So Derek tells us, and by the way, thank you, Derek, for recording this for us. He tells us we have a few more minutes left, so there's two questions I definitely want to get in before we wrap up. Number one is, what's your favorite scripture?
Oh, well, I have them written down because I do have favorite ones. And I can't tell you. Well, it's Proverbs, and it's probably 3, 5, and 6, and you probably know what it is. And I just get, my brain goes blank and I can't remember it. It's trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. That's my favorite, and then I have a whole lot more.
You know what we ought to do is when we put it on YouTube, list the favorite verses there. One that has been something we tried to ask of everybody. You live long enough, you see a lot of change, and especially in this day and age, change happens faster than ever before. And so we want to hear your perspective. You watch us in this stage in our lives, raising young kids, and you know, I think we have been letting go of certain old-fashioned values and just doing things differently. But we just want to hear any advice that you may have for us, those who are raising young children and trying to raise them in the church. What should we hold on to? What advice do you have for us?
Well, I don't give advice, and seriously, I don't give it, because and I can say, Katie, I really hold all of you at the age you are now. I watch you, I see my own children and their children, and I have such deep regard for the way you go about what you're doing. I really believe that every generation brings exactly what we need into the picture. And yeah, I don't see any I don't see any shortcomings from my perspective. And the one thing that I see you doing that seems important to me for all generations is that we acknowledge the diversity of our church family, and that the children get to know the older people as well as their peers. And that seems important to me, that it was important for me that I got to know the elder people when I was growing up, because they're still with me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Okay, I was just getting one more question. Just to wrap this up, we want to know about your walk with God and how it's changed over the years.
Well, I know both of you can relate to this. When I was your age, I was busy, and I went to church, I prayed, and I didn't sit much. I just didn't sit much. And so over the past 5 years, I've had some health challenges that have forced me to get slower. And I've been amazed at what can happen, or what has happened, or it feels like in my spirit with my connection, just a more contemplative kind of introspective connection that I cherish. And that's what I notice, is that I'm not as much of a doer, because I haven't been able to as much. And so that's the shift. It's more devoted to prayer and kind of being with people, or sitting with people and hearing them. I really like listening to people and what they have going on in their life.
Well, I know you don't like to give advice, but I'm going to take that as advice to slow down. As Cornelia told me one day when this whole pandemic first started, slow your spirit down. And so I'm going to take that same advice from you too.
Okay.
That was perfect.
I know, maybe we'll run into a theme here about slowing down and just watching and listening. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing this whole time you were talking. Like, you may not want to give advice, but I'm learning a lot.
That's right.
And we're getting to learn a lot about, that's what I love about this, we get to learn a lot about God and how God works through each other.
Yeah.
And I know, I could speak for Kay, we could spend here for another hour and a half asking questions and all that, but we know, though, we spent your time. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been a true gift. I know for me it's been a true gift, and speak for Katie as well too. And just, we said this last time too, but it's extremely life-giving, so thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Barrett. Thanks,
Yeah.
Katie.
I feel like we just scratched the surface, but I think the men of the church are also wrapping up downstairs. So if you're lucky, you might be able to go downstairs and make $5 and play that piano. If they're lucky, not you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank you. That's cute.